Can you picture it? Cucumbers, lots of cucumbers, right behind me on a trellis. I'm Prairie Plant Girl, and it's still February, but I'm going to be growing a garden full of beautiful produce right behind me here in just a few months. So let's pop into the greenhouse, and I'll tell you about the cucumbers I'm going to be growing this year. That's much better. Oh, it's a lot warmer in here. Okay, so let's talk cucumbers. It doesn't look like much out there right now, except frozen cold and snow. Don't want to spend much time out in the garden today, but in here in my greenhouse, oh, it's beautiful. I love it. So I brought my little seed pack of cucumbers out here, and I'll share with you the varieties I'm planning on growing. So when I grow my cucumbers, I like to grow them up on a trellis. I know some people like to grow them out on the ground, sprawling across the ground, and that's fine if you have the space to do it. That's how my mom has always grown her cucumbers, and they work out quite well that way. But I'm working with limited space, so I like to grow mine up. I usually just use a 3 or 4 foot high trellis to accomplish that, and it works decently. It's not the greatest. Usually my vines are taller than that, but I just kind of wind them around on it. But I decided this year I'm going to try to install the Titan squash tunnel that I grew my melons on last year between 2 garden beds in my raised bed garden. And then I'll grow my cucumbers along that. We'll see how that works out. Hopefully it doesn't shade out the other beds too bad behind it, but I think being that the cucumber plants don't have huge leaves or anything, I think it should work out all right. So we'll have to stay tuned for the growing season to find out how that works. But let's get on to the varieties I'm going to be growing. So I'm going to be growing the Quarantine, and this is a gherkin cucumber. It's just a nice size cucumber. I don't know, about that long cucumber usually. And it's a nice one for pickling. That's what I use most of my cucumbers for, is pickling, and I like it for that. This one matures in 45 days, so it's a great one for in my climate. This is the Persiangherkin, and this is a smaller gherkin, so only about 2 inches, 5 centimeters long. And again, I like to use it for pickling. I only have a couple of seeds left, so we'll see how well it does. But I thought I'll plant the rest of these seeds. This one's a 60-day. And then I have a national pickling cucumber. So this is just your kind of all around good pickling cucumber. Again, you're supposed to pick it around that like 2 inches long size. It's 58 days to maturity. I grew it for the first time last year, and it did not grow well for me, but I think it just had a bit of a rough start. We had a really cold spring last year, and the way I was protecting it, I think the wind was kind of bashing the plants on the trellis a little bit and against the ground, against the fleece that I had over it when we got a couple of unexpected cold nights late in the spring. And I think that just kind of set them up for a bad season. They're an All-American Selections winner cucumber, so I'm pretty sure it's user error and not the cucumber's fault. I got these from the Heritage Harvest Seed Company, and I'm going to give them another try because I do think these are a good cucumber, and I just didn't do them well last year. Next, I have the Babylon cucumber, and this is a much smoother skinned cucumber. This is a better one if you're looking for something to eat fresh or put in salads. It has that better exterior texture for that. And I do use it in pickles as well. I don't think that's what it's recommended for, but I pickle a lot of cucumbers. But this is a nice one if you just want to have kind of a snacking or salad cucumber. Oh yeah, so it does say on the package that they're good for dills when they're 2 inches. So what about there? But yeah, they're good for slicing in that at full size. So I guess I just tend to pick them in the variety stages there. 56 days. So this one is from TT Seeds. The first two were from Bessie's Seeds. So it's a really nice, if I'm going to eat a cucumber out of my garden fresh, that's the one I would go for generally. So I do really like it. The Armenian cucumber is one that a lot of people have talked about, and I've really wanted to try and grow. Again, Heritage Harvest Seeds there. And I didn't get any off of it, and it's a 60-day, but this one was at the back of the trellis, so it was on the kind of the north end, and I think it just wasn't getting enough heat and sun where it was. There was some other things growing around it, and I think it just wasn't, again, getting its needs met. So I'm going to try it again, and I've actually been toying with trying this one inside the greenhouse just to see how it goes. This is more of a melon, I think, technically. They're supposed to be quite long, like 12 to 15 inches long. And if I recall correctly, I haven't looked it up in a while, but it's like a paler skin on it. And just people eat it like a cucumber, but it's technically a melon. And I would just like to give it a try. Another cucumber I'm not growing this year, but if you're looking for something small, especially to put like in a pot or container, if you have a very small space, but you still like to have some fresh eating cucumbers, is the Patio Snacker. It's one I've enjoyed a lot over the years, but like I said, I have the room to trellis them, and I have the Babylon for the few fresh eating cucumbers that we want. And most of the cucumbers that I am doing, I am pickling anyway. So I just decided to forego this. This package is empty now. And I just, you know, sometimes you just need to set one to the side. But that would be a really good recommendation. It has a really good flavor. I've actually pickled the cucumbers that come off of that plant in the past, and it produces quite a few cucumbers on a small plant that you could easily grow in a pot. So if you're looking for something like on a balcony or a small patio or something, as long as you have good sunshine and heat, the Patio Snacker would be a good one for that. Like you can see behind me, and like you saw in the opening of this video, we're still in full-on winter here. These won't get planted for a long time. Even in my short growing season of 110 days, I usually will just direct sow my cucumbers. So if we're having a really, really cold, cool spring, I might start them that week of my average last frost just to give them a little bit of a jump, and then warm up the soil if it's needing that, where they're going to be going with some plastic covered hoops or frost blankets or something. But usually I will just wait until the soil is warm enough to stick my hand in and it doesn't feel cold. That's kind of what I go by. That's my rule of thumb. And then I usually just will kind of make small little mounds and just put 2 or 3 seeds in each mound. And that's how I do it. If I'm going to start them early, I do them in peat pots, or like a peat style pot. They're not necessarily actually made out of peat moss, and then I will take them out once they've grown a couple of sets of true leaves and the weather is warm enough that they can be out above the soil and not getting cold. And like I said, the soil is warm to the touch. Then you can put them outside and bury them down deep. And I, again, will put like 2 or 3 seeds in a pot and just bury them nice and deep. I usually cut the sides of my peat pot, just put 2 or 3 slits in the sides just to make sure the roots can get out really well out of there. Because I find in our climate here, I mean, I'm Saskatchewan, Canada, we're actually pretty hot and dry in the summer. And being a shorter season especially, I just find those kind of things don't break down as well in the soil as they're supposed to. Whether they actually do elsewhere, I don't know. But so I usually just, like I said, put a few slits in the pot just to help the roots get out. And when you're planting a pot like that, any sort of biodegradable pot or pot that you can plant directly into the soil like that, you need to make sure that the lip of the pot goes underneath the soil level, or if it's sticking up, tear off that top little bit of pot so that it's nothing is sticking up above the soil. Otherwise, it will actually pull the moisture up to the top of the pot. It'll wick it up out of the soil and away from the root zone, and we don't want that. Once I get those cucumbers planted and the plants are growing, you know, they need lots of water. Cucumbers, a good crop of cucumbers depends on a lot of water. I mean, that's mostly what the fruit is or vegetable is made out of. So lots and lots of water on them. I usually just sprinkle a light dressing of fertilizer around them when I'm doing my other plants, just whatever I'm putting on for my tomatoes or cucumbers, tomatoes or peppers is usually what I'll also share with my cucumbers. And it's like usually kind of a flowering fertilizer. And I'll top dress with my own homemade compost and mulch. So mulching just helps to hold the moisture in. But I like to make sure that the soil is really, really nice and warm before I start putting mulch down. And otherwise, you know, they don't like a lot of wind. So if you can plant something that'll break the wind, or plant them in an area where they're not going to get as much wind, that's always good for cucumbers. Or, you know, like I said, if you have the room to put them sprawling on the ground, that also helps keep the wind off of them a little bit. So that's a good thing too. I think that pretty much covers it. They certainly do not want any degree of frost on them. So if you're going to get some late cool weather, even close to freezing, then I would cover them with a fleece or a blanket or something if they're already planted out and growing and you can't bring them inside to protect them. Or at the very least, if you can still fit a cloche or some sort of hot cap over them, do that just to help protect them. But make sure if you're doing something like that or something that's a blanket and not the sun can't get through, you need to make sure it comes off during the day. Or if it's like a cloche or something that's closed up, take it off during the day again, unless it's still going to be really cold during the day, because you want to make sure that you don't cook your cucumber plants underneath that, and you want to make sure the sun can get to them. But even like a cardboard box, if you really need, put that over top of them if it's going to get cold at night, if you can do that, just to help protect them through a couple of cold nights. And once they're growing, once it's the end of the season, if you're getting frost and you're not quite ready to let them go, maybe you have a couple of cold nights forecast, maybe not even forecast for frost, but it's getting close to that freezing temperature mark. It's always good to take and put some blankets or frost protection over top of the whole plant if you can get. Old sheets work great for that. So that's my thoughts on growing cucumbers. What kind of cucumbers do you grow and what do you use them for? Like I said, I mostly pickle mine, but I know a lot of people just love their fresh cucumbers. So let me know down below what you do with your cucumbers. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.